How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here. UFC Paris just wrapped up, and here are my afterthoughts for the card, winners and losers, stats, and what's next for every person on the card. Let's get right into it. First up, we have Jacqueline Cavalcanti, who won her fight by unanimous decision over Zara Farron over 3 rounds. As you can see, I have the left side blocked off. That's what's next. But let's go over some of her stats. 127 total strikes, 126 significant strikes. So most of her strikes were just significant. She went 0 of 1 for a takedown. She shot once, didn't get it. Things I saw from Jacqueline were genuinely good striking. She had some solid combos. The body straight, I have that highlighted as she landed that body straight where she ducked and just, it was nice. She has decent cardio. She did slow down a little bit, but she went all 3 rounds. She can bang with a veteran, Zara Farron's been in the UFC for, she's been losing in the UFC for a little bit. She started a little slow, though. She's a slow starter. Maybe it was nerves or something, but, it's just a highlight that she started slow. What's next for Jacqueline? She didn't take too much damage. I personally think she could return in November, December, maybe early next year. I don't know. And the person I would like to pair her against is Stephanie Egger, who, lost her fight in April. But before that, she submitted to Lynn Perez, who, I think this is a very winnable fight for both of them. So that's who I think Jacqueline should fight. Next up, we have Zara Farron dos Santos, who lost her fight to Jacqueline across 3 rounds. I think it was 30-27 was the scorecard. 39 of 259 total strikes. 0 of 2 for takedowns. She was slow. She took shots well, of course. Her gas tank wasn't too great. She turned it on a little late, She landed some good shots in the last 2 minutes, but that's just, it's too little too late. So what's next for, she's gonna get cut. So next up we got Farid Basharat, who won by first round submission, head and arm choke. He did really well. 25 of 36 total strikes, 4 of 6 significant strikes, 2 of 5 on takedowns, and he had 1 sub attempt, and he completed that shit. Things I saw, his transitions on the ground are super fucking good. He transitioned from half guard to side control to top mount whenever he wanted to. Some solid elbows. He actually cut Clayton with a really solid elbow. He shoots very fast into the round, but one thing is, if they try hard enough, if you're not fighting someone who is okay of fighting off their back, they can sometimes get back up. Clayton got to the cage and wall walked back up, but other than that, Farid is looking fucking spectacular. So what's next for Farid Basharat? He's looking fucking good. He's got some good ground game. He didn't take much damage. I say get him on the MSG or UFC Allen vs. Craig fight night card, or at latest the December pay-per-view. I know Farid takes some time off. I would pair him against Raoni Barcelos. I think that's a solid fight for both. If Raoni wins, it proves that he's still got it, and he's still a contender in the bantamweight division. If Farid wins, it proves that he's a real fucking deal. Clayton Rodriguez. Clayton lost by first round submission to Farid Basharat. He landed 25 total strikes, 7 of which were significant, Things I saw from, Clayton, he can land some strikes on his back. He can get back up. With enough stamina and with enough willpower, he can definitely get back up. The thing he struggles with are chain takedowns, so chain wrestlers who, after one takedown, if they don't get it, they're just going to keep fucking going. But one thing I saw in a stand-up, which I've seen quite a bit with him, is his kicks are fucking sweet, dude. In the first 10 seconds, he landed a pretty solid one. I don't know if it was glove connection, but it made a fucking, it landed a thwack noise. But, of course, he lost, so what's next for him? Clayton didn't, really suffer any damage. He'll probably return, early-ish next year. I pair him against John Castaneda, Sexy Mexi. John, I think, won his last fight. Just seems like good matchups, to be honest. Also, after, Clayton lost, the cameraman just, showed him crawling away. Why the fuck would they do that? Next up, we got Nora Cornell, who won her fight by unanimous decision. I called split, which I thought it would have been split with the way the fight played out. Nora went 85 of 134 total strikes, 40 of 77 significant strikes. Things I saw, She had great clinch work. She has super powerful knees and elbows. She landed a couple knees to Jocelyn that looked like Jocelyn was like, ugh. Easily taken down with the traditional headlock takedown that you see in women's MMA. She got taken down like 5 times with it. I don't know what's up with that. She does well in space. She lunges whenever she punches. Like, she'll bounce around and just, huh, and then she'll lunge in with like a right hand or a jab. Super big heart on her. She keeps fighting even when she feels like she's down. She gets taken down. She fights back up. You know, I would say I'm slightly impressed with Nora Cornell. What's next for Nora Cornell? She has a little bit of bruising. She might return early next year. I have her paired up against Jamie Lynn Horth, an undefeated fighter. She fought Haley Cohen on the Song Yadong Ricky Simone card, I think. She won. She kind of just beat up Haley. It was a close fight. She's undefeated. I think this fight is a good stylistic matchup for both. Let's fuck it. See who wins. Next up, we have the quote-unquote loser, Jocelyn Edwards. She went 75 of 120 total strikes, 18 to 42 significant strikes, 5 of 8 on takedowns, 5 of which I think most of those were actually just her fucking just tripping Nora. 1 sub attempt, I forget what it was. I think it was something to do with like a leg lock. Things I saw from Jocelyn, she has, again, great headlock throws. She's improved her wrestling game significantly. She forgot to utilize her length, her front kicks, her straights. She can get bullied in the clinch. We saw it a couple times, but she just kind of threw Nora down. Great heart. Kind of lacked in the cardio, though. I don't know what happened there. Jocelyn is usually the person pushing the pace at the end of her fights. She kind of got the pace pushed on her. I thought she fought a good fight. Maybe she won. I don't know. What's next for Jocelyn Edwards? She had some slight bruising, mostly around her eyes. I think she'd take some time off, work on some things. I ever paired up against Haley Cohen. I know I just paired winners and losers against each other, but it's a sparse division, let's be honest. Next up, we have Ange Lusa. This guy had a great fight. He won a stats, 124 of 120, 98, 182 of significant. 6 takedowns. Pretty solid. He finally got some takedowns in his fights. Things I saw, he had some very powerful strikes down the pipe. I mean, they were fucking beautiful. He was dinking Riss a lot. Great work along the clinch with a taller opponent, may I add. I mean, Ainge is going to be shorter than a lot of people he fights, but Riss is an especially tall welterweight, and he kind of just beat him up. He mixed it up nicely. He knew when to mix up takedowns. He landed some strikes, shot a takedown. He gassed and almost got finished at the end, though, so work on your breathing techniques, my friend. What's next for Ange Lusa? He had a decent-sized cut under his left eye, some bruises around his eyes. I say he returns early next year, maybe March, May, maybe. I say you give him Callan Chaos Williams. I say you give him a guy like Chaos, because Chaos is I'd say he's a pretty big name right now. He's had some really nice fights. He's coming off the split decision win over Orlando Bedoya. If you want to push a guy like Ange Lusa, you have to give him a bigger name at least. And I think Chaos is a perfect guy to do that. Test his striking, see how well he can take actual power shots. Next up, we have Riss McKee, who lost to Ange Lusa. Can no one else walk out to Superstar by Lupe Fiasco, please? Jesus Christ. Riss, 90 of 198, total strikes, 77 of those were significant. Things I saw from Riss, he gets taken down near the fence quite a bit. He can wall walk most of those, as you can see, because he's just so tall, he can just kind of get height advantage over anybody he fights. The iron chin on this kid, I mean, that in the second round, when fucking Ange is just throwing those, like, stiff right hooks to his face, and he's just eating the shit, and then he's eating the uppercuts to his fucking jugular, dude. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. He had great cardio throughout. He out-cardioed Ange. Almost got the finish in like the last 30 seconds. He rocked Ange quite a few times, landed a good flying knee. He leaves his chin in the air when throwing. Like whenever he's throwing his loopy-ass punches, he leaves his chin in the air a lot. He has great body work. He has a right body hook that he likes to throw, which is gorgeous. Yeah, he lost. Who do you give Riss McKee if you do not cut him? He had tons of fucking damage on his face, many bloated areas, bruised up. He has a lot of cuts. I give him a long layoff. If he is still in the UFC, I give him Miguel Baeza, a guy who's 0-3 in the UFC, just like Riss McKee. Winnable fight for both of them. The power of Miguel and then just the tall aspect of Riss. I think that's a good matchup for both. Winnable for both. Next up, we have Taylor Lapilus, who won his fight over Kalen Loughran over 3 rounds. Stats, 87 out of 166 total strikes. 84 of those were significant. Things I saw, great takedown defense by Taylor. He stuffed almost every single takedown offered from Kalen Loughran. Good counter punches and hooks. He slipped off pretty easily. Nice sting to his punches. You could see some of them were getting through to Kalen. He has a receding hairline. He can get back up in bad positions. I think at one point Kalen had both of his legs locked up and was landing some decent ground and pound, and Taylor just kind of got back up. He can go 3 rounds. He has some nice kicks, and he can fight along the fence. Taylor the entire time had his back to the fence. What's next for Taylor? No visible damage. Maybe early next year, late this year. I don't know. Maybe the December pay-per-view. I'm trying to build that bitch up. I give him Garrett Armfield, who, of course, is coming off the Kazama knockout on the UFC Singapore card. I think this is a good stylistic matchup for both of them. Garrett's got that fucking power in his hands. Taylor's got the counter-puncher kind of advantage. Fuck it. Just pair winners against each other. Kalen motherfucking Loughran. What a lad. 70 of 166 total strikes, 48 of which were significant. 2 of 11 takedowns completed. Things I saw, not the best stand-up ever in the world. Solid kick to the body, he landed a couple. I don't know the exact count, but he landed some. Nice straight once in a while in the 3rd round with like a minute 30 left, he landed a straight. And he was like, "Oh, I landed it. He pointed to the ear, he was like, "I fucking landed it." He holds against the fence pretty well. He knows how to control the cage. Weird-ass guard, just like he moves his hands a lot. Quite boring, considering how he acts. He brought some hype to this and just fucking sold so bad. What's next if Kalen isn't off the UFC roster? Not a ton of damage, just mostly some bruising around his left eye, I believe. Probably early to mid next year. Suffered his first loss. I give him Cody Gibson. I think that is a fight that could be exciting. Kalen will try to take down Cody. Cody's takedown defense will try and make it a stand-up fight. And maybe Kalen can work on his stand-up more. He's got the power to knock people out. Cody's got the chin to take the knockout power. We'll see. I think that fight would be a solid matchmaking opportunity. Next up, we have Morgan Shaleri, who won by first round TKO. Stats: 1 knockdown, 26 of 49 total / significant strikes. Things I saw from Morgan, beautiful shots to the body. And I know you're probably just going to say, "Oh, it's because he got the body TKO." No, he actually had beautiful shots to the body throughout the fight. Prior to the TKO, like a couple, I think it was 30 or 40 seconds earlier, Morgan lands like 3 solid body kicks. Like, it's, ugh. He slips beautifully and lands solid punches. He sets traps, he slips off, lands some punches. It happens like earlier in the fight, you can see. Solid punches down the pipe. Nice footwork from Morgan. He moves around the cage beautifully. And this guy, he has the makings of, I think this guy can be something. He's got the experience. He looked really good. So what's next for Morgan? He took really no damage. He won by first round KO. I realize I just put an extra U at the end of by. Early next year, maybe? Maybe late this year? Maybe December? I put him against Melsik Bagdasaryan. I think that's a really good fight. If you want to build up Morgan Shaleri, you want to make him sort of a hero role, I say you give him somewhat of a villain in Melsik Bagdasaryan, who is a guy who thinks he's all this. Melsik is a really good fighter. It would be a really good test for both, mostly Morgan. Fun little matchup on the feet. Manolo Zucchini, he lost by first round TKO, of course. Stats: 9 of 41 total / significant strikes. Things I saw, he has some nice leg kicks. He landed a couple on Morgan. I think Morgan began to check later on, but that's when Manolo stopped throwing. He's explosive, and that's not always a good thing. Manolo slipped a couple times, mostly when he's charging in. Not charging in, but exploding with head kicks. He threw quite a few explosive head kicks, and he slipped on one of them really bad, almost ate shit. Manolo's got good power, like I said, can crusher. Hopefully he stays in the UFC. I think he's a good, fun little matchup for everybody. What's next for Manolo? He took a lot of liver shots. You know, he's going to take some time off, pissing blood. Other than that, he's pretty fine. Take some time off, March, April next year, maybe. I pair him up with Jamal Emmers, the veteran from 2020, who, of course, in his last fight lost to Jack Jenkins. Lost, in air quotes. I think that fight would be exciting. It would prove if Manolo is competitive, you know? Next up, we have William Gomez, the winner of the weirdest stoppage I've ever seen in my life. 61 of 99 total strikes, 52 of which were significant. 2 sub attempts, which I think both of those are just going to be counted as the standing guillotine he had. Things I saw, great takedown defense. I think the stat line is 0 of 4. The ability to sub standing is there. We saw it with the standing guillotine, of course. He's okay with a slow pace. William Gomez always kind of fights with a slower pace, Israel Adesanya style. Solid work along the fence. He has some nice leg kicks. He threw about 500. He's pretty quick for the division. You'll see it. His kicks are very fast. Quick with the hands. Just quick overall. Nice work at the end of the round. He tries to steal every round. If you look at the end of the first, he lands like 15 head kicks and body kicks in the span of 12 seconds. He's got a nice size for the division. 6 foot at bantamweight. Pretty damn big. What's next for William Gomez? I know he likes to take his time off. I think he took about 5 months, I think was the time frame from his last fight to now. He took little to no damage. I would suggest a December pay-per-view slot, try and build that card up a little bit. I would pair him against Joe Anderson Brito, who is a Terminator right now at featherweight. He's knocking everybody out. He's got fucking stone fists. You could argue Joe Anderson deserves a ranked position fight right now. I'd like to see these two fight each other. Winner gets a ranked position fight, Featherweight's pretty stacked right now. You got some of these up-and-comer guys. It'd be a good size fight for both of these guys just to see, the new light for featherweight. Yanis Gamori, who was on the wrong side of one of the weirdest stoppages I've ever seen in my life. 40 of 88 total strikes, 28 of which were significant. 0 of 4 on takedowns. Things I saw from Yanis, he's got some decent leg kicks. There's like a moment in the fight where him and William just go just tit for tat. Sounds like fucking bamboo sticks breaking. Nice work done along the fence. He held William against the fence for like 1 minute 30 seconds, I'd say, throughout the whole fight. His neck is left open at times, like at takedowns, and just kind of like he ran into William, got himself into a fucking standing guillotine. It's just pretty weird performance. I'd say he's down 2-0 going into that third round, so it doesn't really matter. It didn't look like he was going to get the stoppage anyways. What's next for Yanis Gamori if you don't cut him? He suffered some leg damage, bruising maybe on his face. Mid next year, maybe, I'd say. I would pair him against Dennis Bazooka, I think is how you say his last name. I love this dude. He fought against Sean Woodson on short notice. It was a fucking wild fight. He's got he's got fucking heart, this kid. I think Dennis would make Giannis work for it. He wouldn't be like William, trading leg kicks and shit. Dennis would run at him and try and take his fucking head off. He'd make it an exciting fight. I think stylistically that'd just be a good matchup. No time, baby. Volkan Ozdemir won. Let's look at his stats. 1 knockdown, 36 out of 64 total strikes, 26 of which were significant. 1 of 1 on takedowns, 1 sub attempt that he completed. Things I saw from Volkan, nice leg kicks at times. Volkan compromised the leg to Bogdan, I'm pretty sure. One of the leg kicks kind of stumbled him. Good sub defense. Bogdan jumped on a standing guillotine, and Volkan just kind of lifted him up and then dropped him until he let go of it. It was wild. Great ground and pound when he dropped Bogdan and held him down. He kind of just was like, go. Landed some nice shots. Transitions. He transitions nicely on hurt opponents. He transitioned to top mount like immediately on Bogdan. He sets traps to get the subs. He's landing some nice ground and pound, and then he's just like, whoop, and then he wraps under Bogdan's neck, steals it from him. Great performance on the short notice opponent. What's next for Volkan No Time Ozdemir? Slight bruising in his face like everywhere. Bogdan actually kind of tagged him up a little bit. Early next year, no time, lol. I would reschedule the Azamat Mirzakhanov fight. This makes me want to watch it more. I want to see how Volkan would deal with the power of Azamat. If Azamat could land like Bogdan did, then I think it would be a rough night for Volkan. I like that fight. I like that matchup. I was excited for it. And then, Azamat pulled out. Bogdan Guskov. Jesus Christ. He lost his fight to Volkan Ozdemir. 10 of 27 total strikes, 8 of which were significant. Things I saw from Bogdan. He was actually pretty decent in the pocket. He landed some shots on Volkan where I was like, oh shit, he actually kind of hit him. He kind of got picked up real easy. He got taken down easily, okay? He has good sambo. The first takedown that Volkan got, he kind of just, like, got back up. Like, he hip escaped really well. Decent power in his hooks and straights. He landed some shots on Volkan, like I said again, where I was like, oh, no! His chin was in the air a lot. That's why he got clipped. He overextended, fucking... So what's next for Bogdan? You know, he got dropped bad, bruises on his face, mouse under his right eye. Mid-next year, maybe, if he's still on the roster. I would like to pair him against Ovin St. Preux. This motherfucker is still fighting, and this is a matchup that is actually like this is a matchup the UFC would make, and Ovins would probably lose. Yeah, baby! Benoit Saint Denis fucking won. Let's go. 123, 210 total strikes, 101 of those were significant. 5 of 9 on his takedowns. Things I saw from Benoit, like I've been saying, chin of fucking steel on him. He's a brawler, but he uses kicks. Most brawlers you see are just like, ugh! They throw like heavy-ass punches. Benoit does that, but he also mixes in the kicks. Pocket puncher, great power. I mean, him and fucking Thiago at one point were just swinging against the fence. His hooks are clean as fuck. He bullies people. He's good work on the fence. Whenever he gets Thiago against the fence, he either punches or he clinches and lands some good-ass knees. He drowns with pressure on the feet and on the ground. BJJ isn't real to him. He doesn't care about Thiago's experience in BJJ. He kind of just went to the ground with him and was like, I'm just going to beat you the fuck up. So what's next for Benoit? What do you do? Slight bruising on his face, a little bit of blood in his mouth. Late this year, hopefully. Benoit likes to, he likes to fight often, Hopefully December pay-per-view, just saying. I want to see Benoit fight a ranked contender. I don't care if he has to fight super low in the rankings or... if he has to fight up. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Paddy Pimblett, but Paddy doesn't deserve that. Give him the lowest ranked lightweight there is, Diego Ferreira. I think that fight would be good. Diego can mix in everything just like Benoit does. I think Benoit would win this fight. Diego's, of course, coming off the Michael Johnson KO, which Michael doesn't even know who he is anymore. Diego knocked that knowledge out of him. I think that would be a great fight. Sadly, we have Thiago Moises, who sadly lost his fight with Benoit Saint Denis. I'm not really that sad about it. Stats, 27 of 67 total strikes, 24 of which were significant. There's no way those are the numbers, but those are the numbers the UFC posted. 1 of 3 takedowns. He took down Benoit, like, in the open, just kind of tackled him. It was wild. 1 sub-attempt, it was the leg lock. Things I saw from Thiago, solid counter shots on the fence. When his back was against the fence, he landed several hooks on Benoit. Benoit just ate. He's like, he just ate that shit. He's willing to trade. He crumbled on the ground after he got beaten up a little bit. Benoit landed some of those power shots. Thiago was kind of just like, can you stop the fight, please? He caught Benoit Saint Denis a couple of times, like I just said. He caught him quite a few times. He still has it somewhat. He isn't as great as he was earlier, like 2 or 3 years ago, but he still has it a little bit. But not enough. Question is, what do you do with Thiago Moises? He lost quite a bit of blood. He had a humongous cut from an elbow, like on his right side of his face. Cuts everywhere. Long layoff. What do you do with him? I tell you what you do. You give him Rafa Garcia, who's 4-1 in his last 5 with wins over Clay Guida, Jesse Ronson, Mahashate, who was a guy that I really thought was going to be good. I don't know what happened there. He's on the come up. He's silently growing. You give Rafa Garcia, a guy like Thiago Moises, who used to be ranked, who fought Islam Makhachev in the recent years. This was a real big test for Rafa and a real big test for Thiago. Thiago just fought an up-and-comer, lost. Give him another up-and-comer. If he wins, Thiago still got it. Next up, in the UFC Paris co-main event, the winner, Manon Fiorot. 62 of 232 total strikes, 58 of which were significant. She went 0 of 1 on takedowns. Things I saw from Manon. Decent power. She landed some shots on Rose where it was like, oh, I don't know if Rose is going to be able to eat those. She landed some body shots and head shots where it was like, oh, Rose, hang on. Great takedown defense. I think she defended every single one of the takedowns from Rose Namajunas. She can get countered, though. Manon actually got countered quite a bit by Rose. She landed a couple, like, overhand lefts on Manon, and it was like, what the fuck's going on? Quick, though. Manon was somehow quicker than Rose. I don't understand how that's even possible. There was no side kicks. from Manon, which was surprised, but then I realized it was because the one time where she did throw one, like, fully, Rose immediately counted her and almost dropped her. I'll get into the last point with the what's next. What's next for Manon Fior? Humongous cut on the side of her head where she lost a lot of fucking blood. It was due to an accidental headbutt. Other than that, she didn't look too bad. She looks pale in the face, though, I'll tell you that much. The next thing I'll give Manon is the winner of UFC Noche, Grasso or Shevchenko. It really depends on who wins that. I think Alexa Grasso, if she wins, then you do Manon Fior, but if Valentina Shevchenko wins, that it creates a weird thing. I think Manon probably deserves it more than Erin Blanchfield. I think she beat Rose in a more dominant fashion than Erin Blanchfield beat Taila Santos. Hell, you can argue in both of those fights that the other people should have won. This fight, I think Manon won more clearly than Erin Blanchfield against Taila Santos. It's a play of the cards on what happens, depending on what happens September 16th. Next up, we have Rose Namajunas, the loser of UFC Paris' co-main event. She went 60 of 152 total strikes. 60 of those were significant. I don't know where that's stupid. She went 0 of 6 on takedowns. Didn't get a takedown once. Things I saw from Rose, though. She can hang with the tops of the flyweight women's division. She did well against Manon on the feet when I thought she was going to get a bit outclassed. She countered well, like I said earlier. She landed some overhand left. She slipped off quite a bit. The thing that she struggled with, though, was the size and speed advantage that Manon had. Manon was much bigger than Rose. She struggled with it a lot. What's next for Rose Namajunas? Broken pinky. Have you guys seen that photo? Holy shit, that is disgusting. Bruises around the eyes, both of them. I give her a long layoff. Rose usually does take long layoffs. Anyways, I'd pair her against Caitlin Chookagian, the blonde fighter, the decision maker of the UFC women's flyweight division. I think this fight makes sense for both. Caitlin, I still think, hasn't fought since the Manon loss at UFC 280. So it's just Manon's children fighting each other. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to the UFC Paris main event winners and losers. We have Ciryl Gane, the UFC Paris main event winner, 110 of 157 total strikes, 109 of which were significant. Holy shit, that's accurate as fuck. Things I saw from Ciryl: didn't allow Sergey to get close. He used his push kicks and his length. He kind of just he outclassed him. He outpaced him. He kind of just classed him up. Beautiful shot selection. Besides when he had Spivac hurt, whenever Ciryl gets anyone hurt, he kind of turns into a fucking Steph Curry. He just brings the shots from so far away. He's just like, and then he swings it. Body work on point, like I said. He picked his shots to the body beautifully. He had some front kicks. He had some straights. There's a 3-punch combination of the body he has. I think he broke the rib of Sergey, actually, with one of the hooks. The footwork from Ciryl is still insanely good. A key point that a lot of people were using when he fought John Jones was, his footwork's too good for him. And he finally showed some good footwork in this fight. Defense on the feet and stance switches from Ciryl. He switches stances like a motherfucker. And his defense on the feet is still on point. We still haven't seen him get hit with something too crazy since the Tai Tuivasa fight. He didn't get hit with something crazy enough in this fight to, wobble him. The real question is, what do you do with the heavyweight division right now? Damn near no damage for Ciryl Gane early next year, or this all depends on if John Jones does in fact retire, if the rumors are true at UFC 295. Because if John Jones doesn't retire, then it's obviously Sergey Pavlovich getting a title shot, and then you'll do Ciryl Gane and Tom Aspinall. If John Jones does retire, who is going to fight Sergey Pavlovich for the title? Who is going to fight him for the title? Or, dear God, if Stipe wins, I haven't even thought about that probability. The timeline that I'm thinking is going to happen is that John Jones will not retire, I hope, and him and Sergey Pavlovich will fight, and if that fight happens, then I don't even know what's going to happen in that fight. Then you do this fight. Ciryl Gane, Tom Aspinall. I love this fight. This fight is awesome. This would be a really fun one, but it all depends on what happens at UFC 295 in Madison Square Garden. The last fighter to be spoken about on UFC Paris, Sergey Spivac, the loser of the main event, 11 of 44 total / significant strikes, 0 of 1 for takedowns. I think he shot more. I think that number should be like 0 of 4, 0 of 3. I don't know. Things I saw from Sergey, he didn't actually look too bad on the feet. He landed some strikes, landed some nice shots, mostly left hooks. He landed like 3 lunging left hooks that actually looked like they did something, but not enough, of course. Couldn't get the takedown. He still shows up. He showed up for most of this fight. He couldn't when he couldn't get the takedown. He just kind of like, I don't want to say Charles Oliveira because I think that's too harsh, but he kind of just didn't know what to do. Couldn't get Cyril to the fence enough. He did push him there at the end of the round, but there was just not enough time. And when he finally shot for a takedown, when Cyril was backed up against the fence, he just couldn't get it. Cyril sprawled. He fucking sprawled? Are you serious? The Frenchman can sprawl? Enough of that. What's next for Sergey? Shit ton of damage. Face is busted up. Possible broken rib. I think I saw a poking rib. Just had a bad night. Long layoff. I give a guy who just had a bad night as well, Marcin Tybura, the rematch. Probably could main event a fight night or co-main event of a shitty fight night. This fight is interesting. The last time they fought was February of 2020, I believe. Marcin just kind of got the best of Sergey over 3 rounds. You could do this rematch, say, oh, they've changed. They really haven't. But I'd like to see this fight. Both are going to have long-ass layoffs. Marcin just got absolutely mogged by Tom Aspinall. And Sergey just got mogged by Cyril Gane. Winners and losers. Fuck it, why not? Those are my afterthoughts of UFC Paris. Pretty decent card, I'd say. Can we please return to Paris every year? The crowd there is fucking electric. I don't care if Cyril Gane main events every single fucking one. Great fucking fight night card. Fucking love it. See you guys for UFC 293. Fuck me, how is this card so bad?